It's a Hill City clash in Lynchburg, Virginia, as the Hornets welcome in the Randolph WildCats to Schellenberger Field. Joe Brennan joined alongside Kevin Nestor in what should be a very fun crosstown rivalry here today. Kevin, you see a Lynchburg team that's red hot, makes their first appearance in the polls after a pair of wins last week. They're slotted at 22 overall. Meanwhile, this is a Randolph team that's still trying to find their identity.
Yeah, and this Lynchburg team, they kind of had these expectations coming into the season with that veteran back line that they've got. Team's been together for a very long time. They're looking to get acclimated as the season rolls on.
And both teams have certainly had new faces make a big-time impact. For the Randolph Wildcats, this is a team that is extraordinarily young. 12 newcomers this season, and who leads that charge is Marcus Cortez, the first-year forward with 3 goals and 1 assist so far this season, the team's leading goal scorer.
Yeah, and this Randolph team is extremely young whenever you look at some of their guys. Marcus Cortez is obviously the headline, but they've got a lot of freshman guys coming in. They're kind of doing it by committee, and it's a young committee at that.
Nevertheless, he'll have a tall task tonight against a veteran Lynchburg backline that's been absolutely stellar. William Casey comes into this affair as the reigning ODAC Defensive Player of the Week. He was the 2024 ODAC Rookie of the Year, and he's really started to make his mark offensively. 3 goals this season, 2 of which came a week ago against Franklin and Marshall. To give you some context, Kevin, he only scored 2 goals his freshman year.
Yeah, I came into this game with a really big script, kind of a bunch of those accolades you just listed off. But, at the end of the day, all you can say about him is he's a dog, and he's going to get his.
With that, let's walk you through the starting lineups for tonight. First for the Lynchburg Hornets. Between the pipes for Lynchburg, it's the veteran goalkeeper, Thomas Viscuso. And you've got that back line of Benjamin Velasquez, William Casey, Isaac Torres, and Reed Rouse, and Keaton Napier, Matthew Viscuso, and the forward line of Evan Pask, Chris Wiley, and Isaac Cruz.
Tell you what's impressive about this team is whenever you look at it, all of their veterans are coming in that backside, and obviously that's where a lot of the spotlight's been. But it's been their offense that's kind of propelled them to this undefeated start, and they're really doing it by committee. And kind of, as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, it's a young committee, but it's just so impressive to see how quickly they've gotten acclimated with each other and how willing they are to share the rock.
Now we'll take a look at the Wildcats starting 11 for tonight's affair. It's the defender, Brian Lavia Membrino, in the back line alongside Trace Doxson, Samuel, and Conboy in the front line with Williams and Campbell, Richardson, Cortez, Dombrovskis, Ramos, and Cortez. A really strong Lynchburg squad that has started this season off on an excellent foot, undefeated, as you mentioned. It's been a little bit slower for Randolph out of the gates, but this is a team that can certainly cause some trouble.
Yeah, and they're still just trying to get acclimated together. Whenever you look at, their goal scorers, 5 of their 12-point scorers are freshmen or first years. That's a team that's just they're trying so hard to get acclimated together, and they're doing a good job to this point.
With that, we'll step aside for the playing of the national anthem. First 45 coming up on Flo College. And we welcome you back into Schellenberger Field on the campus of the University of Lynchburg. Joe Brennan, Kevin Nestor, a Hill City clash on deck. The two schools separated by no more than 3 miles right down the road from one another. It should be a fun one on hand. Kevin, what are things that you're most looking for out of both squads tonight?
For Randolph, I just kind of want to see how their young unit works together. We talked about how young they are and their point scorers being the first years. But it's going to be interesting to see how they continue to develop their playing together. And for Lynchburg, I kind of want to see how that defensive back line, we talk about that's the veteran presence. I want to see how they're able to handle this young Randolph offensive firing squad.
And while this Randolph team comes in at 2-5-3 on the year, 70% of their games have been within a goal. This is a squad that can really play teams tight, and we saw that when they played on the road in late September against Hampton-Sydney, one of the top teams in the ODAC this season. That was a 1-2 loss. Meanwhile, on the other hand, you have a Lynchburg team that you feel like they've done an excellent job of building off of what they had a season ago, where you come into this season and you only really have a concern about the offense. You feel great about that entire back line returning, but they have had so many guys step up in a variety of ways.
Yeah, and obviously the stats and numbers matter, but whenever you kind of look at the bones of the skeleton here, you kind of got two teams that are in an ODAC clash. Not only that, but this is a battle for Lynchburg, right? There's always a little bit extra animosity whenever Randolph and Lynchburg go head-to-head.
The Hornets this season have really operated by committee on offense. You have 4 different players this season with 3 or more goals.
And that's kind of been their motto for the season, doing it by committee. When you talk about some of the pieces that they lost, that veteran presence gone, who was going to step in and fill that void? And it's been, like you said, a committee effort to do it.
And who's really impressed as well is the younger brother of goalkeeper Thomas Viscuso, Matthew Viscuso. In his first season, he's leading the squad in assists with 3 dimes this year to go along with 1 goal scored.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes down, obviously the stat sheet looks good, but whenever you see him play, you're just kind of impressed by his feel of the field. He's able to kind of command where he wants the ball, where he's at, and kind of get his teammates acclimated, and that gets them a lot of good opportunities that they've been able to capitalize on.
He's recorded at least 1 point in 4 of his last 5 contests, assists in back-to-back affairs, and it was a big one against Randolph-Macon, a goal that was scored with just 4 minutes to go in a crucial conference game for Lynchburg.
Yeah, and you can't understate how important that is for a guy like that coming in and a freshman. This is such a young season, a young campaign so far, and for him, he's still kind of getting his feet wet in the collegiate world, and for him to show up on the scene like he has, it's been really impressive.
If you missed that Lynchburg-Randolph-Macon game, it was one of the most unbelievable games we've seen in a long time just in terms of dramatic finishes. But what it does is it continues a hot winning streak for Lynchburg. Now 5 consecutive W's on the schedule this season. 6-0-2. It's been a great start for the Hornets. This will be the first of 2 conference games played at home before they head for another neutral site, once again played at Horizon's Edge in Harrisonburg, where they'll face off against Messiah. If we're going to keep going down that schedule, then you've got 2 really tough matchups with Virginia Wesleyan and Hampton-Sydney, who have really impressed this season in the ODAC.
Yeah, this is the part of the schedule they're getting into where it kind of makes or breaks your team identity.
And what's so fascinating about the ODAC is you come in this season where it's been Lynchburg or W&L for the past decade, and for the first time in a long time, it feels like it's up for grabs. You've got a Virginia Wesleyan, a Hampton-Sydney, and a Lynchburg all within 20 and 25 in the national poll.
Yeah, and it just kind of speaks to how strong the ODAC is, and obviously, in soccer, but it's really just kind of a testament in every sport whenever you look across the polls. Obviously, sticking with soccer, this ODAC's going to be fun to watch this year.
And you can never count out Washington and Lee. Isaac Cruz! Under 60 seconds, all it takes for the Hornets to get things started.
Goal coming down the field, striking so fast, a well-placed, actually a beautifully placed pass. And right in the breadbasket, and for him, he had the whole goal to work with, Cruz that is.
Cruz about to start celebrating with the salsa. That was an early one.
And for Cruz, that early in the game, you come down, you got the ball right there at your feet on the doorstep. What are you going to do? I mean, how about that?
Well, we talk about new faces making an impact on an offense that lost really pivotal pieces from a season ago. We've talked about it all year, and it feels like now when you start to put the past in the past and you focus on not only the present but the guys of your future as well with a freshman piece like Cruz.
Yeah, and we don't even get a chance to talk about how important they are before they're out here making plays.
You look at the first-year players for Lynchburg that have had such a big impact. You've got Viscuso, Cruz, Andres Romero, who we still haven't talked about, but mentioned with 3 goals so far this season, all of which came against Regent in a hat-trick affair. You have so many guys on this offensive end that show you there's a lot of positivity going in the future. It's Viscuso surveying, looking down the far sideline. Torres plays it back to the middle for Napier. Now near side for Rouse. Cruz driving towards the box with his left foot across the cage, and this one stopped.
Cruz playing extremely aggressive again. You see it from their kind of midfield area. He gets his opportunity, he's going to unleash.
Dominic Cortez, the man with his stop right there. Cortez and Cortez, the 2 tandem of freshman brothers on this squad for the Randolph Wildcats. Those 2 have been such a big part of this team's identity. Marcus at the forward slot, Dominic between the pipes. You know those 2 have had a whole lot of fun playing together throughout the years. William Casey brings it across midfield. Pass inside for Napier. Now Wiley with a quick touch for Cruz. Into the box, turns back. Now to his left, dishes it over. Ball still loose. Knocked down and scooped up by Cortez. Looked like pass got tangled up and couldn't finish it through.
And early on, it looks like Randolph's just a little bit slow in their rotations. I mean, Lynchburg's kind of getting by their man, and everything kind of seems to be opening up.
Long ball downfield, popped up by Napier. Played out of bounds, and the throw-in awaiting from Livia Membrino. Membrino down the near sideline. And a push in the back called on Samuel. Sophomore midfielder out of Woodbridge, Virginia. Beautiful night here on the pitch in the Hill City. About 70 degrees. Sun slowly setting across the Blue Ridge Mountains. Bovo had it tipped away, out of play. Lynchburg will continue to march downfield, and Torres will throw it back for Velasquez. On 2 hops. Over now for Casey. Casey at the midfield. Rouse, 30 yards out, doing some dancing. Stops on a dime and cuts back to his left. Now across the middle, runs into a defender in Corey Williams. And the Wildcats take possession right back. Played back to their keeper. Torres right there, but mistimed the jump. Nevertheless, Viscuso tracks it down. Lynchburg dominating possession through the first 5 minutes. And the scoreboard, 1-0. Long ball laid out in front. Played off the back of the heel. And scooped up by Cortez.
And obviously super early into this game, but those are 2 of Randolph's best defensive possessions so far, able to actually keep a body on a guy and not let him get by, and it's resulting in a couple of possessions for the Wildcats.
Batted around, finds its way over to Rouse. He'll turn and play it for Casey. This is a Lynchburg defense that has really started to play up more and more each and every game this season, and you're starting to see what that could do with guys like William Casey notching a pair the other day. Oh, here's a good look, a chip shot. Oh, just off the mark. Brilliant move from Bovo, but can't convert.
I think that kind of just demonstrates exactly what you're talking about, how they're kind of playing up, pushing the ball, getting these faster possessions. They're looking to capitalize on a few of them. A really good opportunity there, unable to capitalize.
Third shot of the day from the Hornets, 2 of which have been on goal. Bovo, a guy that just has so much creativity. He's always in his bag. They're a little bit more cut and dry. And a great look, an even better pass that really set that whole sequence up. Pask fighting for positioning. Hits the deck hard, and a whistle called against the Wildcats. That one goes against Corey Williams. Viscuso with a nice ball, reversing the field. Those are the kind of touches that aren't going to show up in his stat sheet, but those are the reasons you see him in the starting lineup as a freshman, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. He's so skilled whenever he's got the ball in his possession. He's never know where he's going to go with it, and he can just make some insane things happen.
One of those guys where you think he's got it on a string the whole time. Pask working to his left, drops it off for Wiley, plays it right back to Pask. Ball tipped away, and Lynchburg will reset at midfield. Benji and Casey go back and forth. Nice slide tackle. Played out of bounds, and Randolph will head the other direction. And Viscuso gets his first touch of the night. Velasquez towards midfield for Wiley. A quick touch off the heel. Couldn't be corralled by Bovo. Now here comes Randolph. The Wildcats attacking. A nice move. And a better slide. Oh my goodness. Matthew Viscuso. A late tackle executed perfectly. Pass shoved to the ground once again. That's the third time we've seen him hit the deck already tonight. We're not even 10 minutes in. That one was an easy call for the official. Physical play made by Conboy.
And for Randolph, obviously their best offensive possession, they were actually able to get out and running against this Lynchburg defense. But again, like we talked about at the top of the broadcast, you're able to see how good that back line is. Able to snuff out any opportunity Randolph might have had.
They're not giving Lynchburg any pressure on their half of the field. I mean, at this rate, you could have Velasquez and Casey hold it for the next 35 minutes. I don't think that's the direction we're headed. Cruz from the elbow. A good look over for Bovo, but just inches off the mark.
You mentioned pressure, and I think on the other end, that's why Randolph can't get anything going. They're just trying to maintain a possession on their back line, but the Lynchburg pressure is just forcing so many turnovers and keeping the ball with the Hornets.
There's a Lynchburg turnover as Casey split 2. Rouse and Pask sandwiched in between that ball going out of bounds. Conboy trudging through a host of gray jerseys. Viscuso. Little give and go with Bovo. Here comes the break. Cruz carving his way inside. Cruz lays it down for Bovo. The cross sniffed out by the Wildcats.
Really good possession there for the Randolph defense. Able to kind of, just like you said, sniff out what they were going for. Keep a body on anybody that was threatening the goal. Clear out that possession.
Lynchburg with a series of good looks so far tonight. Converted on their first shot from Isaac Cruz for a 1-0 advantage. Velasquez with a throw-in. Near side post. Popped up. Wiley right out in front of it. And played out of the box by Samuel. Ball finds its way back to Rouse. Velasquez now looking up for Casey, jumping up, and the header is wide left.
Casey down there in the doorstep.
That's a guy that can jump. He's got a pretty good vertical. Him and Keaton Napier are probably the go-to guys when they're looking for a noggin in the interior. Cruz turns to his right, cuts back. Collapsed on by 3. Bovo, stutter step, corkscrewing his way inside, gets tangled up, still with possession, and now a whistle will blow it dead and give it back to Randolph. Lynchburg in their gray and white kits tonight. Randolph in, it does look like a little bit of camo. Are we rocking some camo tonight?
Yeah, and I actually kind of like those jerseys. Kind of mixes in with their colors.
Randolph traditionally in the black and yellows. A good little charcoal green tonight. And I can't tell if that's camo or just a little zigzag pattern they've got going on. Nevertheless, it's working. Laid out in front for Napier. Wants to reverse the field over for Wiley. Nobody in front of him, so he'll go. Now out for Bovo, and once again, another Lynchburg turnover.
I think what's so impressive about this Lynchburg team so far is just their defensive efforts. You know, Randolph just really kind of feels like no time of possession. It's because the Hornets are just swarming to the ball and maintaining the ball in their half of the field, and it's been incredible to watch. You see some more pressure here.
A whole lot of big-time games on the docket tonight, really highlighted with Hampton City and Washington and Lee. You've also got Roanoke playing against Mary Washington. That'll be a fun one as well. And then CNU Valwes. I mean, you look at all the, what you can call the top tier of the ODAC just in terms of the preseason standings, because we're only one game in. But everybody's got a difficult schedule on the dock tonight.
Yeah, and I think this is after this slate of games is done tonight, you'll kind of have a good idea. Not a great one, because obviously a long season ahead, but a good idea of kind of who your favorites are going to be and who you're going to be eyeballing as the season goes on.
Far side of the field, over for Viscuso. Taken away by a Wildcat. Now played back. Long ball downfield, looking for the forward, Dombrovskis. And Lynchburg repossesses.
I don't hate that possession for Randolph. They had a chance there to kind of get out of that pressure a little bit in their own end and flip the possession. Obviously, it didn't go their way, or flip the field, rather. They ended up losing possession, but I want to see some more things like that from that offense. Try to get the ball in their half.
Evan Pask. You know, he was getting a whole lot of hollering from the sideline telling him to turn. But the patience creates a good opportunity, and Bovo unloads a missile of a shot over the top post. Less than a foot.
It was a foot away from being gold, and he was just absolutely ready to dial that thing up. And he's a guy that can unleash from almost anywhere on his half of the field.
The 5th shot tonight from Lynchburg. The 2nd off the right foot of Bovo. Dombrowski, or pardon me, Cortez downfield. Played out of bounds, and they'll continue to move forward. Wildcats still yet to get inside the Lynchburg 18. Cruz looking for help down the near sideline. Played back for Napier. Now Rouse. Dishes over for Pask. He's got a step on his man. Out of bounds and a brilliant touch to avoid the corner kick.
Absolutely.
Or no, pardon me. Where is it? It'll be a throw-in, yes.
Just one of those hustle plays. You don't give an opportunity for Lynchburg on a corner kick. Really good defensive effort there.
Well, when you've got the arms of Rouse, sometimes it can still act as a corner. It's the guy that can launch it. The approach, the toss, a low one. Looking for Velasquez. Played right back to him. Now Rouse wants to go towards the end line. Rouse across the middle. Casey's stopped right out in front. I mean, we talked about the impact of all these freshmen for the Wildcats. Cortez in goal has been absolutely stellar this season, and there's a prime example of it, Kevin.
Yeah, for Lynchburg, you couldn't ask for anything much more on the offensive end. Just a beautiful offensive possession, but for Cortez in the goal, just better defense.
A foot race, won by the Wildcats and played back. Reed Rouse will collect. Over for Viscuso. Nice ball downfield for Torres. Played off his chest. Bovo trying to give it right back to him. Wasn't ready for it. Pask. As it tipped away. Crafty move on the edge. Dombrowski with a touch that ricochets it out of play.
You see that beautiful save by Cortez on your screen. Again, just a beautiful offensive possession, but Cortez ready to earn it.
What's so interesting this season about this Lynchburg squad is if you had said through the first 8 games, half of them have been shutouts, typically a team would be thrilled. That's an excellent result. This is a Lynchburg team that I can assure you is frustrated that they have allowed 4 games without a shutout. This is a team that thinks they can hold everybody scoreless. Only 1 game this season where their opponent has scored more than 1 goal. That was in a 3-2 victory on the road at St. Mary's.
Yeah, this defensive unit is their veteran presence, and like you said, most teams would take it, but for them it was an expectation that they would get to the early portion of their season with not a lot of shots and goals allowed.
The Hornets atop the conference rankings in terms of goals allowed per game at .625. That's good for 32nd best across the nation. And when you put so much emphasis on what the defense does, and when you have a squad where you feel like if you score 1, you have a pretty good chance of walking out with a win, then your offense has been able to score over 2.5 goals a game this season at .275, the 28th best in the nation. So you're looking at an offense that's better on paper from a statistical standpoint than the defense, filled with returners, where you feel so great about coming into this season.
Yeah, and you talk about expectations, and you couldn't have a better expectation for complementary soccer, right? You know, this offense is playing to the defensive strengths and vice versa, and I think you're seeing that on display here tonight. Defense not really having to get into too many worried possessions because the offense is controlling this time of possession. They're getting some really quality looks on their end.
Yeah, top 20 in the nation for goal differential. They're plus 17 through 8 games. It's unbelievable. And a Hornet squad a year ago that really tried to find their rhythm offensively and did so towards the latter half of the year. But it was a defense that had one of, if not the best campaigns in program history, double-digit shutouts. And we're on pace to do the same once again. Rouse played back for Napier. Over for Cruz, a bouncing ball that he possesses. Right back to him as he charges into the box. Bovo right back to Cruz. This one's intercepted. The clearance tipped away. Back into the box. Cruz tangled up, lost his footing, and a whistle blows it dead.
And what's so impressive about this Lynchburg team, you kind of mentioned the number of stats that they have, but like you said, you could probably pick out 100 teams in the nation that if you gave them that start to the season, they would say, yeah, sign us up. But this is an expectation for this team, this group of guys, the players, as well as the coaching staff. And this is something that they pride themselves on, and they didn't expect anything less at this point in the season.
A team that has more than just conference title aspirations, looking to make a deep run in the postseason this year. Velasquez back for Bovo. Finds its way for Torres. Bovo once again keeping the pressure on. Bovo driving towards the end line. Back for Benji. And now Keaton will slow things down. Kicked out of play. A nice slide tackle from the Wildcats. Staying within striking distance. While they haven't shown much on the offensive end quite yet, Kevin, they've done just enough defensively to keep Lynchburg within arm's reach. Aside just from a goal that came in the opening 60 seconds. I mean, Lynchburg really came out and punched him in the mouth.
Yeah, I think they just came out a little bit slow, a little bit flat, but they made some adjustments, and you could see it on the field, some of the adjustments that they made, and it's worked out for them.
Nobody home for Rouse's header. Trickles on to Jack M. Tom's track. Over halfway through the opening 45. Lynchburg calling for a handball. They're not going to get it. Now Randolph deeper in Lynchburg territory than we've seen all night long. And an offsides call. Do you like the aggressiveness from Randolph early in that possession, or do you want to try and settle for a different shot, Kevin?
I love the aggressiveness. I don't think you can be too patient. We saw them try to be patient in that back line and maintain their possessions, but the Lynchburg defense is just swarming, and it doesn't matter where the ball is at on the field. So when you get those opportunities to attack, I like pushing the pace.
High risk, high reward. That's how Kevin lives his life.
100%.
Napier, near side for Rouse. Chip to the far side, Bovo charging in, can't put the hammer on the nail. Near side, it's Conboy. Challenged by Rouse. On him like white on rice. Ramos. Marching downfield. Oh, a big collision.
So I like that faster possession so much, because honestly, I feel like that's more of a risk. Whenever you're trying to slow it down and maintain your possessions, Lynchburg, they just fly around so fast, and they're able to create turnovers from anywhere. And all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, their offense can get going. So when you got a chance to get down the field and push the pace, I definitely like that coaching strategy.
Novo got caught by the turf monster. Torres repossesses. Kicked over for Casey. He'll take a shot downfield looking for Di Lorenzo. A little too much juice.
I think that's where Randolph's kind of living on the edge when they're giving that back line of Lynchburg the possession. They're slowing it down. They're kind of playing to their tempo. And when they're doing that, they're just kind of feeling out where the defense is at and what they can look for. And then all of a sudden, it's like just mashing the gas pedal down, and they're going and getting out and just running so hard to get to their spots. And they've had opportunities there all night. You saw another one there, unable to pay off on it. But Lynchburg definitely kind of feeding to their game plan as well.
It'll be a goal kick for Cortez. Rolls out of play, and the Wildcats continue to move in Lynchburg's defensive zone. Wiley takes it away. 3-on-3. Played out wide, and Wendell Ramos takes it away, the sophomore defender.
And again, you saw there the Wildcat back line just being slow with the ball, trying to set a possession up, and really just gifted a possession to Wiley on the 3-on-3. Lynchburg unable to capitalize at this point, but they're still on offense looking to strike.
Pair of substitutions for the Hornets. Long ball downfield. Viscuso with the handle. Taken away by Viscuso on a physical play. Out in front for Pask. A foot race. Ball still free. Pask with a chip shot. No good.
Shot off the pipe. You know, Wildcat down on the field. Never want to see that.
It's Wendell Ramos, who's been great today for the Wildcats. He calls off the athletic training staff, gets back up onto his feet, always a good sign.
Again, just no breathing room for the Wildcats to get anything started. Their possession. Lynchburg just everywhere.
They have not had much room to operate today. Very little breathing room for the Wildcats. Right now, if you're Randolph, you feel pretty good about this game sitting where it is at 1-0. Lynchburg has had 7 great chances tonight. They only cashed in on one of them.
And a lot of that's credit to sort of some of the adjustments that the Wildcats made on defense. Again, you saw them just kind of play a little bit more aggressive there in their own end. It's paid off to this point.
Velasquez. Back for Casey. Here comes Rouse. Towards the end line. Sticks his foot in the ground and turns back for Pask. Played up for DiLorenzo. Popped away by Cortez and out of bounds.
Another slew of substitutions coming in, 3 apiece for both teams. And for Randolph, I wouldn't be surprised to kind of see that trend. You know, obviously, you can watch all the film and simulate all the game plans and practice and walkthroughs and things like that, but it's a completely different animal when you get out here on the pitch with the team that is as fast and as physical as this Lynchburg team is. And I think it's just kind of taking a toll at this point on Randolph, but still, defensively, they're doing an excellent job just sort of maintaining. Not this time. Goal scored for the Hornets. Beautiful job. Again, you see a quick possession there. Lynchburg on the far end. Just a beautiful pass. Got the goalie out of position and slotting it right into that bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah, Kevin, you felt like it was only a matter of time. Lynchburg had so many good chances right out in front of the keeper, and this time it's pushed through. Or no, pardon me, they're going to call it back. An offsides call. A late whistle that we missed. Our apologies.
You know how unfortunate that is. That's the first goal I've ever got to call, and we're bringing it back.
Tragedy.
So unfortunate.
We'll get you another one. But you did great.
Lynchburg again, just looking to strike fast.
Casey, under a dozen minutes remaining. Rodriguez down for Rouse. Popped up far post. Cortez knocks it loose. He has had such a strong performance tonight. I mean, we really haven't gotten to see much of this Randolph offense, but we've certainly got to see a whole lot of their defense so far. And it's tough to really highlight anybody other than the keeper, Cortez.
And they're all doing a good job getting around, but Cortez, like you said, man, just throwing his body around in between the pipes, blocking anything that comes his way. He's only got one blemish on his record so far tonight, but a lot of chances that he has saved for that Wildcat defense.
Second corner of the evening for the Hornets. It'll be taken by DiLorenzo as Vasquez checks in for Reed Rouse. Another unsuccessful set piece for the Hornets, but it results in yet another corner kick.
And this is where Lynchburg, I feel like, can be so dangerous when you give them opportunities. And they don't capitalize, but they're going right back to the playbook here. Going to try another set piece. Different result this time.
The corner off the top pipe. The goalie's best friend. It seemed like Cortez might have gotten a fingertip on it. Because of that, it'll be a throw-in deep in Wildcat territory. Velasquez with the heave. The toss towards this center of the box. Batted around a few times and into the chest of Cortez.
Yeah, and a lot of credit. Those 3 opportunities squandered out by the Wildcat defense, Cortez in particular. Again, you see him just kind of commanding the defense. Whenever things aren't going their way, he's right there, kind of bail them out of a tough situation.
And a play, and Vasquez will bring us back in. Sharp ball delivered to Torres. Colby Wilson plays it back. Inside looking for Wilson this time around. DiLorenzo can't find him in stride. Now fighting on the outer edge. Lynchburg maintains control. Under 9 minutes to go here in the first half. It'll be Velasquez once again throwing in. High toss. Popped up. Still in play. And brought out by Velasquez. Looking downfield. One touch. Right into the breadbasket for Cortez once again. It was Bruno Real Silva that had a chance at it right there. Real Silva, another one of those big-time freshmen making an impact tonight. Right now you've got 3 freshmen on the pitch for the Hornets, with Real Silva, Vasquez, and Saul Lopez Correas. We talk so much about Lynchburg's young, talented players. We've already seen 5 tonight. And we're used to seeing Andres Romero in that starting lineup, who's one of those key pivotal freshmen that has made a big impact. It doesn't seem like he's in action tonight. We were a little surprised he wasn't in that starting lineup. And it doesn't seem like he has a jersey on. On the sideline with cleats, but no jersey. Long ball across the field. DiLorenzo! Sean DiLorenzo, ice cold.
That time the Hornets able to capitalize, like you said, a beautiful long ball just to kind of start the possession. And that's how quick things can happen. A long ball placed on a dime, and DiLorenzo capitalizing on the far end.
DiLorenzo gets it to go. Lynchburg continues to rack them up, adds to their advantage. They now lead by 2. That is the second goal this season for DiLorenzo. His first one came against Regent in the home opener. Lynchburg with 9 shots today compared to the Wildcats' zilch.
I think for the Randolph defensive unit, with 7 minutes to go, you were going to be happy to take a 1-0 deficit with as good as you started playing in the middle portion of this first half. But then all of a sudden, again, you just see how fast it can happen for this Hornets squad. Up and down the field in just a matter of seconds, and all of a sudden, the leads just double.
Another substitution for the Hornets is Cristobal Massanet. Checks in. Once again, you know what I'm going to say. Another one of those first years.
It's kind of the theme around both squads.
Yeah, you've got 12 newcomers for this Wildcat squad. 5 of their 12 point scores this season, all first years. About half of their top 10 leaders in minutes, all first years. A whole lot of freshmen in the starting lineup tonight. Casey towards the middle of the field. Colby Wilson trying to drop it off. This one's intercepted. Tries to earn it right back and does so. Real Silva off a foot to Rodriguez. Rodriguez lets it go from outside the 18. This one's wide right.
Good possession defensively for the Wildcats. I think that was probably the lowest quality shot we saw from Lynchburg tonight. And even saying that, it wasn't that far from looking pretty good.
Under 5 to go. Cortez sends it towards midfield. Colby Wilson brings it in. Played outside for Real Silva. Lopez Correas now. Back for Vasquez. Nobody at the middle of the field. They'll give it to Massonet. Plenty of real estate. DiLorenzo turns. Lopez Correas now. Out of play. Wildcats now with possession. Line drive. Picked up by Massonet. Now Real Silva in a battle. Long ball downfield. Casey's the only one there. Vasquez for Velasquez. That's not a fun tandem to call, I'll tell you what. Vasquez, Velasquez, Viscuso. Talk about a back line. Casey pokes it out of trouble. I mean, Lynchburg just attacking every loose ball. Beelining it, looking for possession.
I don't think you can hate what Randolph's doing with those long balls because the pressure's coming so fast on the Wildcats' back line. And really, it's coming fast everywhere whenever you kind of look at the things. All over the field, Lynchburg just flying to the ball to make sure that they maintain possession. It's really impressive to watch.
Well, what other teams have done to try and counter that from Lynchburg this season has been a series of quick, sharp passes down the field and staying tight. Nevertheless, Randolph has had a different approach tonight, trying to just send it deep and say a prayer while it's on the way and hope it all works out in the end. But this is a Lynchburg defense that has seen that a time or two during their collegiate tenure and knows how to diffuse an explosive offense. Just over 2 minutes to go. Velasquez with the toss. Top center of the box. Ball's on the deck and played far downfield. Vasquez with help. We'll reverse it for Torres, who's got Velasquez wide open. Nobody within 20 yards. Casey right back to him. Massonet out wide. Vasquez looking to go inside the box. A mishandle from a Wildcat. Colby Wilson, extra pass. This shot, an easy save for the freshman keeper. That's one where you'd maybe like just one more touch. Try and set up the open look.
Yeah, especially when you see how fast the ball was getting around the pitch. You know, they kind of made things happen so fast there. You kind of only got to think, one more pass would have just took a few seconds and would have had A lot better opportunity for the Hornets to throw number 3 on the board.
But sometimes that's what the keeper's expecting. They're expecting that extra pass, and every now and then you're going to let that one fly and try and catch him off guard. And where he is sometimes is the best spot for that scenario when you're anticipating him to get out of the way. Nevertheless, an unsuccessful attempt for Lynchburg. Nobody's home on this cross. Real Silva comes charging in, gets tangled up and falls to the turf. 20 seconds to go. Is Lynchburg going to get one more chance? Massenet gives him an opportunity. Inside for Wilson. The turn, the shot, the save. And that will expire time here in the opening half in a Hill City clash. It's the Hornets out in front of the Wildcats 2-0. Kevin?
Well, I think for Lynchburg, you got to like what you're doing offensively. I mean, when you've got enough shots on the goal that me and you are up here nitpicking now, you're kind of doing a lot of things the right way. And I think for Randolph defensively, like I said, they had some things going for them there in the middle portion of that first half. Maybe getting a little bit tired having to chase down all these Hornet jerseys. Nonetheless, it's going to be a fun second half.
Isaac Cruz had the first one, then Lynchburg rattled off 7 more shots, 6 of which were on goal. It was a matter of time until they found their next goal of the night. It was a beautiful ball laid out in front for Sean DiLorenzo, who capitalized with his strong swing of the right leg. With that, Lynchburg up by a pair as we head to the break. We'll be back on FloSports. And we welcome you back into the Hill City Clash. Joe Brennan and Kevin Nestor on behalf of Flo College. If you missed the first 45, it was all Lynchburg, Kevin.
Yeah, they just made it look easy. Defensively, they really didn't have to get into too many kind of shootouts because they were able to put the goals up. And you see a bunch of zeros in the column for Randolph. Lynchburg on the other end, just their presence on both ends of the field has just been dominant.
And you feel like this game could be a whole lot wider of a margin than 2-0.
Yeah, because the opportunities have been there, and you see that with the 12 shots. And it's not like they've just been 12 outlandish shots. They've been really good opportunities. You look at the corners. Lynchburg didn't convert on any of their corners, and that's kind of their bread and butter here in this young season. But I think they're going to continue to look for these opportunities in the second half, look to clean up some of those mistakes they made on their possessions.
Half a dozen shots have been on goal, 4 saves for the keeper, Cortez. He has had a really strong night tonight and has really kept them in this ball game, Kev.
Yeah, just the defense has just been getting stressed so much. But Cortez, he's been kind of a key staple. You see him throwing his body around all over the place back there in between the pipes. And like you said, he's gotten some fingertips on some crucial saves. He's also let those 2 by, but he's done a great job in between the pipes for the Wildcats.
Well, Randolph will try and gain some offensive momentum as we head into the second half, but it's the Lynchburg team that's looking for their 5th clean sheet of the year. One of the best defensive squads in the nation, allowing their opponents under a goal a game.
It'll be interesting to see what sort of adjustments Randolph makes. Definitely want to keep your eyes on the pitch. Don't get caught looking at the live stats too much.
And just to give you some scores around the Hive, Lynchburg and Virginia Wesleyan playing in volleyball out in Newport News. That game has just entered the 5th and final set. Virginia Wesleyan 23rd in the country. Lynchburg just outside the top 25 looking in. 26th if you want to count the receiving votes. Nevertheless, we digress. Back to the pitch. Chris Bovo up for Cruz. Nice passing from Lynchburg, but split right between Wiley and Cruz. What has impressed you the most tonight from this Lynchburg team, Kevin?
Just their ability of how quick they're able to get going. You see their back line kind of maintain most of their possessions, and then as soon as they get what they're looking for, they're just like this, they're able to get out and run it in front. All of a sudden, they're kind of controlling the possession. Randolph doing a good job defensively here, though.
What has been fun to see is a little bit of the depth on display tonight for the Hornets. A whole lot of substitutions towards the latter portion of the 75. You saw the 45, pardon me. You saw the reserve Sean DiLorenzo getting the score column. And most of those substitutions on the front line for Lynchburg. Probably a big indication of how this game has been played as well. Just that back line hasn't had as much work as the offense has thus far. Chris Wiley looking for Bovo. His pass is deflected, but Reed possesses it.
And to your point, the Lynchburg back line really hasn't had to work that much, and it was kind of like it was the Wildcats' game plan to kind of run and gun with those long balls. It's going to be interesting to see if they kind of maybe listen to the broadcast, a little Joe Brennan advice, if they're able to take kind of that midfield approach, keep things tight, quick passes. I definitely think that's going to be the approach. It'll be interesting to see what kind of changes they make.
I don't know if anybody should be taking my advice.
You're the best in the game, man.
First set piece of the night for the Wildcats. It'll be Marcus Cortez with the boot. First year forward. Into the 18 and an easy grab for the veteran keeper Viscuso. See if he wants to push. Deep downfield looking for Cruz.
My goodness.
Played out in front. Wiley back over for Cruz. Cruz with a pair. Isaac Cruz strikes again.
What an absolutely beautiful possession by Lynchburg. The long ball from the goalie, and he is fired up back there in between the pipes, and he should be.
The first-year forward making a name for himself here in the Hill City Clash. Isaac Cruz out of Harrisonburg, Virginia. Struck first in the opening minute. Then once again, here just under 4 minutes in to the second half.
And that possession, again, just absolutely beautiful. From their own end of the field, the goalie just placed that long ball in a perfect spot, and from there it was a two-man game. Cruz finding the soft spot in that zone back there, and then just slotting the ball right into that bottom third.
Cruz came into this contest with 7 shots on the year, 3 of which had been on target. Tabs his first and second collegiate goal on Schellenberger Field. Tonight's going to be a night you certainly remember for maybe the rest of your life. I mean, that's a great way to kick things off. And how about the header fighting through 2 Wildcats to keep it alive and play it over for Wiley, and a brilliant pass right back to him, a little give and go.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the definition of a perfect possession for Lynchburg, doing everything right. You almost kind of feel for Cortez in goal. He's doing everything he could back there, and with 2 guys coming at you, you're just taking a gamble which one's going to shoot and where it's going to go, and he was close to getting a fingertip on it, but again, just a beautiful ball placement.
Ball out in front for Torres. Through the middle for Viscuso. Lynchburg now looking to settle. Or no. Played up for Torres. Doesn't have a beat on it. Cortez holds it in.
The Hornets, again, just relentless with pressure. They're on into the field. Forcing a turnover and creating an opportunity.
Vasquez comes into the affair in place of Torres. We have seen some substitutions on the outside of that back line, but it's been all Casey and Velasquez in the interior. Should come as no surprises. Those 2 and Viscuso handedly lead this squad in minutes this season.
If the game continues to go this way, do you think they play all 90, or do you think Lynchburg is going to continue to kind of see what they've got with those young pieces?
I do not know. What do you think?
I think it would be an interesting approach. Obviously, you want to get those guys acclimated there on the bench with some of the other freshmen that they got on the field, or the pitch, rather. But at the same time, you've got a guy like Casey playing so good at such a high level, obviously conference player of the week. It's hard to kind of pull him.
And I wouldn't necessarily call this defense thin by any means, but it is certainly thinner than other positions. Oh my goodness, Cruz just pulled to the ground. That'll be a yellow card awarded to number 28, Wendell Ramos. I'll take another look at it. Yeah, I mean, that one's a pretty easy call for the officiating crew. It'll be a set piece now for the Hornets. Viscuso will take it from the near sideline, just about 2 yards up from the 18.
I think if Lynchburg had any sort of things at the half they wanted to talk about being better was their set pieces. I think this is a good opportunity to see what they talked about at the break, trying to be able to capitalize on these possessions right here.
Velasquez with the toss. Towards the far post. Popped up. Bovo with a header. Casey once again. Ball still free. And played out of trouble.
I think for Randolph, the defense just kind of getting a little bit flat-footed there. You see the ball get into trouble. Obviously, there's a sense of urgency, but it kind of floated around in that danger zone for a little bit too long for their comfort.
A charging header. Once again, skied towards the Lynchburg sideline. Crafty move to create some space, but a host of Hornets snatch it right back.
That's one of those things for Randolph. That's kind of the possessions that I wanted to see up here in the booth, seeing how they would kind of manage that midfield area whenever they got the ball in their possession. Just empty there. Lynchburg, again, swarming to the ball, allowing nothing by them and creating another possession for themselves.
Bovo. A little too much.
That one would have been good from 70.
Another substitution for the Wildcats as Brad McCall checks in for Matthew Campbell. Lynchburg wants to move quick.
Yeah, and defensively for the Hornets, just another possession of relentlessness. Swarming to the ball, fighting for possession, and coming away with it. Now they've got kind of open field right in that midfield area. They're going to work a little bit patient, see if they can set something up similar to their last goal.
Napier. Wildcats now looking to counter. Lynchburg's defense just not giving an inch tonight, Kevin. I don't know if Randolph's going to get a shot off.
It's just so impressive. I mean, we talk about how good they are at the top of the broadcast, but it's things like that obviously the turnovers will show up in the stat sheet, but what's not going to show up is how fast they're just flying to the ball. Their ability to create possessions for their offense is so amazing.
Outside for Bovo from the near sideline. Bovo. The cross. Tipped away. Vasquez now into the 18 off the chest of Wiley and played back for Casey.
And Vasquez doing an amazing job saving that possession there for the Hornets, able to keeping it really inside their 18. Was able to give Lynchburg an opportunity to reset. Nothing comes of it. See if the Wildcats can get rolling here on offense. Again, like you said, it's been a slow night for them on the offensive end, but a lot of that is just credit to how the Hornet defense has played.
Well, this is a Lynchburg defense that, the goal numbers certainly speak for themselves, but the shots is also something that we need to take a look at just based off what we've seen tonight, as once again another offensive opportunity is diffused. This is a Lynchburg team that's only allowed their opponents to shoot 50 shots. That's an average of 6.25. In 4 different affairs this season, they have held their opponents to 2 shots. And they're coming off a performance against Randolph-Macon where they allowed the most shots they've given up in any contest this season with 14. So a great response here tonight.
Yeah, 100%. And again, as crazy as it is, that's kind of the expectation as you see a beautiful defensive effort.
I mean, if the expectation is 0 shots a game, that's
Well, it's kind of just some of those stats that, again, if you hand to another team in the nation, they take it. But that's how this defense for the Hornets expects to play. And it's just such a high level, and you just can't undersell how important it is.
Yeah, and when they're giving up shots, Kevin, they're oftentimes not terrific shots. We talk about that Randolph-Macon game where they gave up 14. Only 2 of those were on goal, one of which went through. It was during a PK. Nice save once again from the young keeper. The most they've given up was 6 against Salisbury. That was a 1-1 draw. And I mean, nothing over 7, which is really impressive.
If they keep teams in that 6-7 shot range, it's going to be tough to beat this Lynchburg team. But again, like you said, even giving up against Randolph-Macon, when you give up a high number of shots, only 2 on goal, I think that just speaks to how offenses have to play and game plan for this defense.
And I know Viscuso hasn't hit that number in a contest yet this season, but you got to feel pretty confident that he can come away with 6 or 7 saves if you need him to.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he has just been stellar in between the pipes. I think as you kind of get deep into the heart of conference play, I think maybe not a lot, but you'll definitely be calling his number more than we have been so far.
Number 6, Trace Dockman, heads to the sideline.
Did he come in for number 7?
Ball's loose inside the 18. Sean DiLorenzo with a nice play to keep it out. Rodriguez will slow things down after the turnover.
I just think the way defensively that you're going to have to approach playing this Lynchburg team is to throw pressure right here, like on this area of the field. Because if you give them time to just be patient like they are and kind of set up and look at what you're coming out in and give them a chance to find what they want, they're going to make you pay more times than not. They may not capitalize on a goal, but they'll get an extremely good possession out of it. But that's kind of that double-edged sword. If you're throwing pressure back there, you know how good that back line is. They're probably going to find ways to make you pay regardless. I just think that's your best chance really to make offense happen on your side of the field. You can't just wait for Lynchburg to make a mistake because it doesn't happen that often.
We haven't seen many adjustments from the first to the second half from this Randolph squad. Still searching for something to break the seal. Played towards the near sideline, right at midfield. Chris Wiley with a takeaway. Chris Wiley with a nice move. Hits it right back. Running circles around Wildcat defenders. Rouse just lost it. Lopez Correas gets it back. Now Vasquez. He'll reverse the field over to Rouse once more. You asked earlier if we were going to see Benji Velasquez head to the sideline. His spot, believe it or not, has been taken by Matthew Viscuso. I mentioned this defense, it isn't thin by any means, but it's not necessarily deep. They've had a handful of injuries this season. It's been a Lynchburg squad that was very, very banged up, especially at the beginning of the year. Look at that trip they took to Maryland against Salisbury and St. Mary's. They had 8 guys on the roster that were not active. That number's gotten smaller as we've gone throughout the season, now down to 3 or 4 guys on the sideline. And there'll be a handful of them that are out for a good deal of time. And we're starting to see new keepers get loose.
I think for Lynchburg, when you see that number start to shrink, it just gives you options, to throw different guys in and kind of get more minutes. Obviously, with injuries, you're going to see that more, but you're going to see it here in more comfortable spots where guys can just kind of get that playing time and get their feet under them as you head into the conference play, because obviously you never hope for the injury bug, but it can strike at any time, and you just want guys that are ready and kind of have some of that game practice, if you will.
Here's the cross. Lopez Correas fighting for positioning. Splits 2, lost his footing, hits the deck. Ball kicked out of play. Another whistle blows us dead after the collision with Casey. Lopez Correas across for DiLorenzo, drops it off for Rodriguez. Carving his way inside and saved by the keeper once again. Cortez tabs another stop to his nightly total. Vasquez comes streaking in. Rodriguez with a chip up top, the header off the mark. It'll be a goal kick once again for Cortez. And now we'll see a substitution in between the pipes for the Hornets. Thomas Viscuso's day will be done without being tested through 67 minutes. And now it'll be the graduate goalkeeper out of Rockville, Maryland, Matthew Kapsidis. Kapsidis joined the squad last season as a transfer in his 6th season. A guy that decided to stick around and came to the University of Lynchburg to pursue his master's. Adds a little bit of depth to that goalkeeper lineup. They've got 4 goalkeepers on the roster this season. Stefan Kapitanov also on that list, a member of the Lynchburg men's volleyball squad. And Miles Dixon, the freshman out of Richmond, Virginia. Kapsidis, not a bad alternative to go to. Also just a great guy. I'm a big fan of Matt. He's the definition of one of those locker room guys.
You talk about a veteran presence and just a leadership role. You got to have those guys.
Just brings a little bit of swagger to the team as well. Got to have some of those.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't, you're just kind of stagnant.
Another substitution for the Wildcats is Javi Flores comes in. As we take a glance at some of the other scores around the conference. Hampton-Sydney up 1-0 on Washington and Lee in the 67th minute in Lexington, Virginia. That's a game that has big-time implications on the ODAC, Kevin.
Yeah, and you talk about how early in the ODAC slate we are. But, I mean, like I said, you kind of get a feel for who teams are right about this point. Whenever you get into this early slate and you're seeing just these tough games, who can grit them out, it kind of propels you for the rest of your conference play.
Virginia Wesleyan also in a ranked matchup against Christopher Newport. And the Marlins are up on the 5th-ranked Christopher Newport Captains 2-0 in the 67th minute.
Yeah, and that's impressive. I mean, it's impressive whenever, honestly, any team's up on a CNU team. It doesn't matter what sport it is. It seems like CNU's just one of those pinnacle teams in Division III.
It's going to be a party in Newport News tonight if the Marlins come away with a big pair of victories. And then finally, another matchup we had our eyes on that concluded right about at halftime of this affair. Roanoke against Mary Washington. The Maroons fell to the Eagles 1-2. That's a Mary Washington team that's going to start finding its rhythm pretty soon. And while that may not seem like it has big-time implications on the ODAC, that's a squad that a lot of the top teams in the conference are playing in their non-con. The Hampton-Sydneys, the W&Ls, the Valweses, the Roanokes, the Lynchburgs. So all of those squads are going to have that common opponent, which kind of gives you a glance of where everybody's at.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. Just playing those tough out-of-conference opponents, especially when multiple teams from your conference are playing them, it gives you an idea of where you kind of stack up and what your identity is, kind of against those upper echelon teams as you head into conference plays. Those are big-time games.
Just to give you a little bit of insight, this is a Mary Washington team that defeated Washington and Lee 2-1, lost to Hampton-Sydney 0-3, lost to Lynchburg 0-1, lost to Valwez 1-2, and now defeats Roanoke 2-1.
That's a gauntlet.
That is a gauntlet. I mean, when you play in the C2C, you don't have a whole lot of opponents in your neighborhood, so they can really pick and choose who they want to play kind of throughout the Old Dominion.
That's tough.
They do have to go through Salisbury and Christopher Newport in that conference. They'll play both of those squads twice this year.
And kind of like you said, it just kind of gives you an idea of where Mary Washington kind of feels they are. And, granted, they're playing some very close, tough games against the upper echelon teams of the ODAC.
They're slotted at 6-5 on the season. Virginia Wesleyan is, without a doubt, I think after tonight, going to be the team to beat in the ODAC. And that will be a very, very fun one we have here on October 11th. Schellenberger Field.
Yeah, I've been a big advocate for the ODAC to kind of just spotlight a game of the week. I feel like that would be the cake. I think you would have a tough time picking one from the slate tonight. Like you said, when you see a squad like Virginia Wesleyan up 2-0 and the number 5 team in the country, it just kind of gives you an idea of how good that Marlins team is and how tough the rest of the ODAC has it whenever they come to town or they go to visit Newport.
And obviously when you beat them in the regular season, that one doesn't carry the most weight. You're looking towards postseason play if you're really any of these, what I'll call upper echelon ODAC squads this season. Once again, Casey diffuses a potential offensive opportunity for the Wildcats. And right now, that game against Virginia Wesleyan and Hampton-Sydney, both back-to-back, feel like they could be critical when it comes time for seeding. And with that being said, Lynchburg got to host it here a season ago as the number 1 overall seed and fell on their home turf. Oh my goodness, Sean DiLorenzo was a freight train to try and create space. Trying to return a little bit of the physical contact that Wendell Ramos has given out tonight. Ramos was given a yellow card earlier for his tackle against Cruz, but we've seen him in a handful of physical altercations.
Yeah, there's been quite a few kind of just under the radar one-on-one physical battles on the pitch throughout the night. I think, again, just one of those, when you get into this conference slate, everything just means a little bit more.
Well, they let this one fly for the first shot of the evening. Well off the mark. Kapsidis lays it out in front forward. And just like that, Lynchburg changes the field.
When you talk about conference play, just to go back and put a pin in that, how demoralizing must feel for kind of those mid-pack teams whenever you sit there and you think, okay, Lynchburg lost a lot of their key guys. WNO, I don't want to say took a step back, but maybe they're not as dominant.
Yeah.
But then you got a team like Virginia Wesleyan, 2 up on the number 5 team in the conference. Just when you think you have a window.
Yeah, I do think Washington and Lee losing the 2-time reigning Conference Player of the Year is a big-time loss. Igbe was one of, if not the best players that this conference has ever seen. And he was the sole goal scorer in the ODAC championship a year ago when Lynchburg fell 1-0 on Schellenberger Field. He was a problem for everybody in the ODAC, and you said it. He leaves. You have a handful of all-conference players leave for Lynchburg on the offensive end, and you feel like for the first time in a decade it could be your year. And for the Randolph Bacons, if you will, of the conference that have been competitive for almost a decade, now see 2 more threats coming right in. But you have to tip your cap to the Hampton-Sydney and Virginia Wesleyan squads this season that have come in, and it's not, oh, these teams are losing much. It's just these programs have been building and building and building for such a long time, and now you have the opportunity to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, and that's the blueprint of ODAC. You know, you have to build for kind of the team of the future, because you never know just kind of when one of those guys are going to be that spark that comes in. Maybe doesn't play that often early on, but then you get a chance like this season right here for Virginia Wesleyan, and you get to go throw your hat as the dominant factor in the conference.
A little too much on that swing. Yeah, I think it's been a combination of a lot of things, but I think the level of play from a depth perspective in the conference is certainly rising, which is a great thing to see. It's in any conference. You always want to see your conference do well. From a selfless perspective of you like to be happy for those that are doing well around you, but also from a little bit of a selfish aspect where you want that strength of schedule and you want those dominant opponents in your conference to help out your own record.
Yeah, 100%.
Help your NPI. Because I think every school would rather be in a conference where you have 5 tournament teams rather than 1.
Yeah.
And this is a this is an ODAC conference that now if the tournament were to start today, you would for sure be getting 3 teams in.
Yeah, 100%.
And possibly 4 with Roanoke and Virginia Wesleyan really on that bubble. But things are only going to get tougher as you get to conference play now. Because if you had this very difficult non-conference schedule, it is a double-edged sword to where you feel like you've been through the ringer and you know what you're going to be tested with. But also your back is now against the wall where you need to perform against these high-level opponents for a chance to make the big dance.
Yep.
And on the flip side, you could be a squad that's played nobody, and now you're going into conference play, and you're thinking, geez, we got to get a couple of these.
Yeah, because you're playing 4 tournament teams, like you said. It's just obviously, you know, like you said, it speaks volumes. The team's kind of building that blueprint in the conference, but it just the ODAC overall, just the step forward that they've taken as far as competitiveness and the amount of teams that they're placing. It seems like it's gradually going up season by season. It's just credit to every team in the ODAC, just building those rosters around, competing with each other.
Everybody wants a piece of the ODAC, Flo included.
Yeah. I do like just seeing, I don't want to say another team because Virginia Wesleyan's not just another team, but somebody else kind of step up and take the reins, because for so long, Washington and Lee was to the ODAC kind of what Bama is to the SEC in football for so long. You just get tired of seeing the team win all the time. That's credit to Washington and Lee. That's credit to Washington and Lee. They built the right DNA there. And again, that is not me saying they're taking a step back by no means. They are 100% still the general squad that teams have got to be ready to play.
We can't get too much on SEC ball because we'll be here an hour after the game's over. Just over 10 minutes left to be played. Lynchburg with a phenomenal defensive outing tonight. Couple of substitutions coming in for the Hornets. Max Tyshoff alongside Luca Amato. 2 more young players for Lynchburg, the freshman and sophomore tandem. Lynchburg still applying a whole lot of pressure.
I don't think you can kind of undersell what the defensive effort means in these games just because of what it provides your offense. You have those opportunities like in the first half where you don't capitalize on a couple, but when your defense is playing so rock solid, it gives your offense those opportunities to kind of correct mistakes and see what works and give you opportunities to build. You're focusing on one area of the game that you might struggle in because you have such a good defensive unit that's going to allow you to do those things. It's one of those things that you would practice, but it's even better when you can sort of work on those corrections during the game.
Every starter out of the game for Lynchburg. It'll be all reserves from here on out. Rodriguez over for Viscuso. Or pardon me, Viscuso, the sole starter remaining. We're not used to seeing him on that back line. I don't know if we can call him a starter if he's playing in a different spot, though. It's like putting Travis Hunter at quarterback. Another substitution now coming in for the Wildcats. They'll take out Marcus Cortez and sub in first-year forward Michael Coles. Your head coach Yeager, you got to feel pretty good about where your squad sits right now. This Lynchburg team will improve their record and remain unbeaten at 7-0-2 this season on a 6-game win streak. And you've got Averett at home in your next game, which is another game you feel pretty confident about.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where you just kind of continue to build that identity, what you've been doing to that tough out-of-conference schedule, and you get an opportunity to get into inter-conference teams and see kind of how that matches up. Obviously, we don't talk about Averett being one of those upper echelon teams, but it's still one of those ODAC schools that you got to go put a good outing on.
Averett 2-3-3 this season. And their most recent affair, they played Hampton-Sydney pretty tight on their home turf. 0-1. Game won by the Tigers. I think she just played an exhibition game against Duke.
Yeah, that's tough scheduling.
That did not go great for them.
You talk about tough out of conference, wanting to build your mold. Yeah, it's an exhibition, but I guess that'll get you ready for ODAC play.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. A game against Hampton-Sydney, which you feel like is a tough one, and then you go play Duke. I mean, that's like benching 225 and somebody throws 500 pounds on the bar.
That's
next time when they go out and play Lynchburg, it's going to feel like they've got a feather on the bar. Oh, my goodness. An exhibition in Durham.
That's tough. Right in the heart of your season. And that's not a Division I school that's just out there for fun, right?
And that is the first shot of the night from the Wildcats. Capsidis records the save. But it does feel like it sets the stage. You've got to, if you're Lynchburg, you got to get past Averett and Messiah. And Messiah's sneaky. Their record might not reflect it. They're 2-6-1. But you talk about a gauntlet of a schedule. Scranton, Clareton Mudd Scripps Colleges, Rowan, Dickinson, Salisbury, Mary Washington. I mean, they have had a ringer of a schedule thus far. And they've played some of these games pretty tight. Their offense looks great. That's one thing that you can talk all day long about.
They're putting numbers on the board.
They've had almost half of their games with 3 or more goals this season. But in the same breath, that's a Messiah squad that's given up almost 2.5 goals a game. So that'll be another fun one at the neutral site where Lynchburg played Franklin and Marshall earlier this past week. And then that's really going to be center stage for Virginia Wesleyan.
That one's going to be fun to watch. I mean, you go Virginia Wesleyan and Hampton-Sydney back-to-back. It's going to be a tough slate.
Hampton-Sydney on the road, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a Hampton-Sydney squad that could certainly find themselves sitting at first overall come end of the regular season. You've got so many squads fighting for that spot right now. I'm sure all of them feel pretty good about their shot.
Yeah.
Virginia Wesleyan 6-1-1 this season. Their tie came against Dickinson, a team that made it all the way to the Elite Eight a year ago and sent Lynchburg home in the tournament. And their sole loss at the hands of Hampton-Sydney, but they have bounced back with a big-time victory tonight. As we've mentioned, that contest being played against Christopher Newport now with 6 minutes to go, still leading by 2. But it's Washington and Lee. Matthew Jenkins has just tied up that contest. So W&L and Hampton-Sydney now battling. They've been saying it. You can't count out the Generals this early in the season. That is a squad that can get scorching hot in a blink of an eye. They're playing a strong game against a 7-1 Hampton-Sydney team that's riding a 3-game winning streak. Their only loss this year, Christopher Newport, 1-3. It'd be fun if Lynchburg played CNU this year. It'd be a little bit like the Mary Washington. Instead, they've got Salisbury.
Yeah, it's interesting when you kind of like dive into the psychology of that, the circle schedule, right? When you talk about Virginia Wesleyan's beating CNU, but CNU beat Hampton and Sydney and W&L's tied. You kind of get twisted in matchups there.
Who's on first?
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say one thing. The transitive property is as tempting as it is to apply to college sports. It is never the case. Otherwise, last year they would have crowned Vanderbilt the college football national champion.
As they should have.
And you know what's wild is we're going to leave here tonight with a 3-0 ball game with the shot column being a 16-1 differential, and I promise you, head coach Yeager is not going to be happy with the result.
Yeah, if you were to catch him after the game, like you talk about, he could probably talk to you for an hour about mistakes that they have to clean up or things that they could execute better.
And I can tell you right now, being able to convert inside the box is going to be the big one.
Yeah, 100%.
This is a team that had so many great looks tonight. Granted, you're playing a stud of a keeper in Cortez. The Cortez brothers certainly were the highlight tonight for Randolph, and if you're the Wildcats, that's great that you have that to build on, as you've got a coach in his 3rd season that is looking to really change the direction of this program. He's got some building blocks to work on, and those two certainly at the top of the list, but it's a heck of a lot easier to shut down a forward than it is a keeper that's just having himself a night.
Yes, 100%. And like you said, a coach in only his 3rd season with such a young team, that's a team that's going to continue to try to find their identity. I think they'll have a lot of things, a lot of building blocks as they progress forward.
Well, that will do it for us here tonight. The Hill City Clash ends in a 3-0 victory for the Lynchburg Hornets. Randolph still looking for their first win over Lynchburg since 2011. And they'll have to wait until next season to get another crack at the Hornets. With that, final thoughts, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, for Lynchburg, just another dominant defensive display, but there's certainly going to be things that they're going to look at as opportunities. Even as dominant as you feel a 3-0 win is, things that you can clean up, that you continue into the gauntlet of an ODAC schedule that you have. And for Randolph, again, just trying not to feel discouraged because both Cortezes actually, just studs back there on that team, freshmen, they're going to be pieces to build on.
Cruz got the first goal tonight. Then it was DiLorenzo on that right-legged swing. That gave Lynchburg a 2-0 advantage. And then this was the highlight of the night. Cruz on the head, back to the foot, a little give-and-go action. Cruz having himself a fun time. His first 2 collegiate goals helped Lynchburg seize a 3-0 victory on their home turf. We appreciate you spending your Wednesday evening with us. It's been a pleasure bringing you the broadcast. Men's soccer will be back in action on Schellenberger this weekend as they play host to the Averett Cougars. We'll have the call on Flo College. Till then, thank you so much and stay cool.